Hey everyone, Scott here from Swift Canoe and Kayak. We are here at the fabled cabin with Sean James from My Self-Reliance. Sean has been generous enough to sit down with us. We're going to have a cup of coffee here. We're sitting by the fire with Callie here, and we're going to talk about the outdoors, life, canoeing, and some of his adventures and some of his stories. So I'm going to dive right in. I know we got a cup of coffee to have and a dog to play fetch with.
And we need it. What is it, first week of October, and it's like 3 degrees or something like that.
Yeah, it's a little chilly right now. I was just saying, these guys, you can see your breath right now, which is, I think is the first time this year.
Yeah, it was 30 yesterday.
Yeah, are we peak colors right now?
I really think it is. Actually, I got some awesome drone footage this morning out here and over a couple of creeks and everything, and it looks like it's peak. A lot of them are starting to drop actually.
Yeah, on the drive out here, we had the cameras out already because we were just driving by so much nice terrain with all that color, and you only get it for a week or two every year up here, so get it while you can.
Yeah.
But let's dive right into it, Sean. I got a lot of questions that I want to ask you. I know all of Sean's followers are pretty devoted and want to hear more. And I'm privileged enough to know Sean had the chance to come here and hear a little bit more about his story. So for any of your viewers who don't know, I'm really curious to hear about even just the origin story for you. I mean, really, I know from having known you for a couple of years, you had kind of a previous life. You worked in business for a lot of years. What was the impetus for you to switch careers, if you will, and kind of transition into living this lifestyle?
You know, it's fun. Before I answer that question, we got Chag brewing on the fire here, and I see it boiling over, so I'm going to take that off quickly while we're talking here. So this is Chag fungus. We were talking about it. Get the harvest from all the birch trees around here. I got jars and jars of it in this form, and really healthy, but I like adding it to the coffee, so if you don't mind that one.
Absolutely. I think it'll be pretty potent, and that'll be good. It'll keep us warm this afternoon.
Yeah, so how far back do we want to go?
Well, tell you what, I think I met you originally. You were just starting out with the channel, and you were a customer of Swift's.
Yeah.
And I believe I met you at a trade show, actually, and that was when you bought your first solo canoe from us. And as I remember it then, I mean, you were just, I'm not even sure that you had this property yet.
No, I wouldn't have, for sure. I think I bought a Swift canoe for at least a year, maybe a year and a half before starting buying this land and starting
So at that time, when you were in the market for buying a canoe and starting to do more of this type of thing, it sounds like you're in kind of the transition, moving from your previous business work into this. So how did that all come to fruition?
So I document, I'm a pretty open guy, so I've documented a lot of this on my channel where I talk openly about my years in business, but also the business failure that I had, which I know now that it's just a function of doing business and putting putting it all out there and putting it on the line. Ultimately, you're going to end up with some successes and some failures. So I had a significant business failure that put me way in debt, personally, as sort of a guarantor for the business. So that hurt, and I started looking at my life thinking, well, I got myself into that position. I could blame the market, which is bad. It was after the financial crisis in 2008 and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, I got too close to the line. It's like playing Monopoly. You're just buying every property until you have no money left if you run on somebody else's property. I did that. And the pressure, I had 2 young kids. My girls are 20 and 19 now, and a wife, and a lot of responsibility. So to be that bold and I think irresponsible, it just caught up to me, and I realized this is not the life I want to live anymore. I want to get back to the simple life and back to the outdoors, spending way more time in the outdoors than I was. And I've raised my girls, taking them camping, doing all that stuff like most Canadians, I think. But I just wasn't as fully immersed into it, and I did have an office even in Toronto for a while there, and just so not me. If you see some of the beginnings of one of my longest videos where I'm in the city and then I transition to this, and you'll see people see me in that suit. And
I was going to say, I remember the suit.
Yeah, look so out of character, but that was me for 20 years. So to get back to this, I built a cabin when I was younger, and I canoed and fished and did all that outdoor stuff then before I got married, and got away from it, and I had to come back to it. So I had this opportunity to shut it all down, shut all the business life down, and simplify. And I went from growing up paddling canoes, and the cheapest you know, basically
Cheapest,
scrap.
heaviest ones.
Yeah, where the little, let's see, little aluminum one with the foam pads on it.
The Grumman?
No, it's really thin aluminum.
Sports power?
Yeah, yeah, and you just lean on it the wrong way, and it finally did snow collapse.
Yep, yep.
I went from that to going up to like a 15-foot boat with a 15 horsepower motor on it, and then went up to a boat with a 90 on it, and then I got a 35-foot boat with two 375 horsepower engines. And as I did that, trying to sort of keep up with the Jones and get out there and see more bigger water, I was losing the connection to the water. And part of this simplification was getting rid of all that stuff and getting back to a canoe, getting back to, you know, hand tools and hand building a cabin. Just got me right back into where I felt it naturally needed to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds like, I mean, from what I know of you and then from having watched a lot of your videos as well, I mean, it sounds like, you know, this lifestyle was always part of your life,
yeah.
and, you know, more so in the periphery, you know, for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And then you had the opportunity, or took the opportunity, to kind of bring it to the forefront. And from what I know of you, and it's very obvious in your videos, is that you seem to really feed on kind of the connection to nature. And that's something that you've talked about a lot as being something that's, I don't know if centers you is the right word, but
yeah.
Having, you know, built this cabin, all this stuff, it's something that's the lifestyle that you really wanted to come back to, and looks like you feel most comfortable with. So the story of this property, you know, the short version being, I mean, as you were making that transition, I mean, I know you were looking for a particular, you know, type of land and type of area. You know, how did this property come to be?
Well, it's interesting. So I had first property I actually bought when I was 17. Just working hard at doing construction for 2 summers, 16 and 17. Bought this property on Whitestone Lake, just south of here, or you know, back between where I grew up in Newmarket and here, I guess, better description of it. And normal township, so you have to follow building codes and all that stuff. So built a little cabin back in the woods where nobody could see it, and kind of got away with it for years. But when I went through that financial hardship, had to get rid of that property. So I was without for a number of years. And when we started looking again, well, I really want to build a cabin. I don't want to have to be restricted. So when I looked into the building codes, realized you have to build a minimum square footage, and you have to use all modern materials.
Permits.
Yeah. The cost of permits, I think it's like $10,000 development fee in the area, you know, especially where the old cabin was. So I didn't want to go through all that. To me, going back to nature and back to simple things was also, you know, it's called my self-reliance for a reason. I wanted to be able to sort of live a little bit outside the society. So I don't want to conform. I don't. Let's start that over again.
Good ear. Quarry?
No, it's just the earth, the wind that comes from that direction. Good. See, that's the Chagga. See how black that is on its own?
Oh, jeez. This will be good. Looking forward to this.
Yeah, so going back to simplifying and being more self-reliant also meant because I'm going to do things sort of outside of society's norms and not follow building codes, for example, build a small structure instead of what's mandated as a bigger, more modern thing. I had to find an unorganized township. So I happened to be in an unorganized township that's still reasonable distance to major centers, because I'm still somewhat reliant on the system. I still have to buy a lot of my food and things like that. So this was a great central location to be able to do whatever I want without oversight by a municipal government, but also to be able to access the areas that I love so much. But Algonquin Park nearby, Killarney, Georgian Bay, Muskoka, Parry Sound, Temagami. I just love this area of Ontario, and I have traveled around doing other outdoor stuff around the world. Just came back from spending a couple of weeks in Alaska this August, And I love this area. I come back to this, and this is what I.
Well, even when we were talking before the cameras were rolling, just what's on this property, just in terms of wildlife and resources.
Well, I might.
Yeah, I don't think if the
I might
mics are picking that up right now.
This is why I love it. I mean, oh yeah, there they are. Oh, they're migrating already. Those aren't locals.
Wow, that's a lot too.
Yeah. So that's a reminder that winter's coming.
I don't know, is that a good sight or a bad sight?
Yeah.
Depending on how winter's going to be coming. It sounds like we're getting snow this winter. But
it's interesting watching that. So that's part of what I love about this land is that geese, ducks. I've got a stream that runs around the property, runs back behind the cabin where I get my drinking, bathing, and cleaning water from. If it's not from the rainwater, I have deer and moose and bear on my trail camera this week. There's a wolf that's been hanging out even during the day down here.
yeah, and right next to the cabin.
Yeah, like literally you can sit on the porch. That's part of why we decided I built the porch on this side of the cabin because that's facing west. You get to watch the sun down and see the wildlife that come across this beaver dam down here.
Very cool, very cool. Now that makes me think of something immediately. Once you having talked about some of your business dealings, and it sounds like there might have been like a bit of almost a burnout involved in doing that. Do you feel a little bit rebellious in nature, that part of seeking to do this is a little bit of a rebellion against having to abide by all those rules and the building codes and the bureaucracy? Is there some aspects of that drives you a little bit, that being able to do that is always a motivator to keep living this lifestyle?
I'm learning a lot about myself and about life doing this. So it's been 2.5 years since I broke ground. And while it is, I do call it my self-reliance, and I try to be as self-reliant as possible, I've realized that I have a much greater appreciation for our history, for the people that came before us, creating the opportunities that we have. So I'm not anti-society. I am more of a loner by nature. However, I do like people too, and I do spend a lot of time with friends and family. But I just feel like I think it's my responsibility, and I really think it's everybody's responsibility, to be the best person each of us can be and be as self-reliant as we possibly can, so we're not a burden on everyone else around us. The more I learn about taking care of myself, the more I'm in a position to help others. And that's what I love about YouTube. But this was not a thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is recent. I just started YouTube myself 3.5 years ago.
Well, that's where I was going to be headed next for this conversation. And one of the things, I was fortunate enough is building the longhouse was something that, I was privileged enough to come up here and participate in that a little bit. And like you said, the ability to kind of, build friendships and build relationships with people who support and endorse this lifestyle. That's something that I think comes through with you, that you're very passionate about spreading that goodwill and those skills. And then I was privileged, to participate in that and learn along the way. Hanging out with guys like you and the Baird brothers especially, and Doug. I mean, you can't help but learn, absolutely. And that's something that, YouTube I think opens up the door for people to see things that they wouldn't see. To see what's possible out there when you're experiencing the outdoors. And that brings me to the whole YouTube thing. Because like I said, when I met you, you were just starting out. You didn't have this property.
I probably had 4,500 maybe subscribers at the time.
Was that always the goal
No.
in doing this? How did becoming a quote-unquote YouTuber develop?
Yeah, YouTuber is a funny thing, especially with teenage daughters looking on their father playing in the woods and filming himself doing it when I had 1,000 subscribers. I'm just a weird dad that they don't talk about.
No, they probably don't say that anymore, though, right?
No, they're proud of that because that's a generation, they grew up with that, where we didn't. And it is a little odd for somebody like myself. I'm 49. It's not a young person. I'm not a young person on YouTube. But when I started the channel, I didn't know it was something you could. First of all, it wasn't a career option. It was something you just do to share your experiences. And it really goes back to the canoe. Actually, when I decided I wanted to get rid of my power boats and get back into canoeing, I did a lot of research and ended up on some forums, including My Canadian Canoe Routes and Algonquin Adventures.
Yep.
And through reading other people's trip reports, and saw some of them had videos associated with them, like Larry Hyatt was one I started watching back then, and thought, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna, first of all, thank you for all your advice. I ended up buying a Swift canoe because I realized that they're the best, and that's not an endorsement or
I
anything.
appreciate that, though.
Yeah, it's just the way it was. It was the perfect canoe for me. But just prior to buying that, I actually bought a canoe, a cedar and canvas canoe, this beautiful green one, because I wanted to have something that I could repair myself. I could go and I could literally split the cedar ribs from the forest,
Yep.
from a tree, and repair that thing.
Well, I mean, I think that's very understandable too. I mean, given the skill set that you have and
Yeah.
you've developed, I mean, that's self-reliance,
Yeah.
you know, and of course it makes perfect sense for someone like you to have that, and us having the opportunity to help you get, you know, some lighter weight boats and some things that also benefit your lifestyle as well is you know, there's a balance there.
Well, that's
and I
fine.
really can't imagine you not also having a cedar canvas canoe. It's
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
fitting, right? And
Yeah,
so
and eventually a birch bark canoe. That'll be probably one of my projects next year.
and,
But
yeah.
that's where it started. It was okay. I'm going to start sharing videos. I wrote a story and actually one was
Yeah, no kidding. And that's how it all began. How we use it. Yeah. Time for sex. Yeah, very interesting. I never knew that you becoming a YouTuber, that wasn't, part of the plan. It just sort of developed into something like that. You can make money doing this? Well, and that's something that I know you've mentioned in your videos, and it's part of like, who you are. And I think that, obviously it resonates with people, and I think that comes through in your videos, absolutely. I'm curious, as YouTube you were kind of developing, and it's starting to gain an audience, was there a particular moment or video or time when it started to gain traction? Was there a turning point in that where it was then decided that, this is the thing, this is going to be the focus of my efforts here?